I got an HD camera! HD. HD caucus. HD bread.
HD.
HD hipster Jigglypuff. HD sock my brother still has not removed from the steps. HD 2DS I'm charging for the third time in 48 hours because I've lost control of my life. HD sleepy rats. Anyway, book reviews. HD book reviews. In continuing with my whole theme of reviewing books I've already returned to the library, today I'm going to be reviewing Blulilylilybl by Maggie Stiefvater, and you will imagine it here. That size. Blulilylilybl is the third book in the Raven Cycle series, and so there's going to be a lot of spoilers because it's the third book, and I'm just going to start talking about it. I love the Raven Cycle series. I love it. Basically, the gist of the series are one of our main characters, Blue. She lives in a house full of psychics, and she has the power to enhance psychic abilities. First chapter of the first book, she's waiting in a graveyard watching these ghosts come by to predict who's going to die for the year, and she sees the ghost of Richard Gansey III, and then it switches to his perspective. And slowly they become friends, and by the time this book happens, Blue and Gansey, and then their other friends Adam and Ronan and even Noah, are such good friends, and it's beautiful. Like, they are completely inseparable from each other, like the kind of friendship everybody wishes they had, and it's done so well. And it's gonna hurt so much if Gansey dies. So this book really gets into the whole searching for Glendower thing. They're actually starting to really find things. The first two were kind of the quest, but also getting sidetracked, and this one they're like zeroing in on it, and they're actually starting to get somewhere, which is really interesting to see. They actually got somewhere in this book. They went exploring through all these caves and they actually found someone. They found Gwenllian, who is Glendower's daughter. And then they found the second sleeper later on, at the very end of the book. So I guess the only one who's left over is Glendower himself. So they are really accelerating super fast through Gansey's quest here, and I can tell that something's gonna happen in book 4. And I hope it's that they find Glendower, and I hope it's that Gansey is saved. The plot of this book takes off right from where the Dream Thieves left off. There's very little explaining what happened in the past couple books, but that's actually okay. Maggie Stiefvater posted some really hilarious jot notes about what happened in the other two books online, and I read that, and that actually really helped me. And it was funny, it was a fun read, so you can see that on Maggie Stiefvater's Tumblr. She had a link. Don't expect to just go into this book without having read the other two and know what's happening, because that's not going to work out for you very well. I found that this book was more about Adam. So like the first book was kind of about Blue and Gansey and them meeting each other, and the second book was really a Ronan book, all about his abilities and his past. And this book has a lot of Adam in it, from his perspective. Him communicating with Cabeswater. He comes to terms with his past, and he takes on his father in court, which was, actually they didn't really tie that up, did they? Also, Blue told Adam about Gansey, so now he knows that Gansey's predicted to die, and he's dead set on finding Glendower and getting his wish that Gansey lives. I suppose if anyone other than Blue had to know Adam is a really good choice, because he's just determined enough to get this done. And plus there's that thing from the first book where he might be the one to kill Gansey, and we're not entirely sure about that, but this is shaping up to be an interesting war between Adam and himself and his impulses. And I just really don't want Gansey to die, so I believe Adam can do it because I'm given no other choice. I'm interested in what would happen if Ronan knew. Like, if one of the boys had to know, Adam's the one who's going to keep it a secret. Ronan would probably just get really angry and lash out, and somehow Gansey would find out, but this is like a shared burden between Blue and Adam. There are a lot of more interesting combinations of characters too. Like in the past couple books there's been a lot of, you know, Gansey and Blue, or Gansey and Ronan, Gansey and Adam, just a lot of Gansey. But in this book, there were more characters interacting who, like, normally you wouldn't see together. There was a lot of Ronan and Adam hanging out, and the fandom's pretty excited about that from what I can see. The Raven Boys has a really interesting fandom because they're kind of hidden, but they're very large, apparently, because if you search the Squash 1, Squash 2 song on YouTube, you get like a bunch of predicted results, but there was no song, which was like unhelpful to me because I was looking for it and I thought there was actually a thing, and that was a fruitless chase. Anyway, back to Adam and Ronan. They interact a lot more in this book. Fangirls are excited about that. I don't know whether it was a romantic thing or not. I didn't see it that way, but I mean, if it develops into that, I'm not going to be upset because they're very close together, obviously, like the whole group is, and so it could work out. It was very cool to see them talking to each other a lot more, though. They had that thing where they tried to frame Greenmantle, and it was Adam's idea and Ronan had to put it into execution. It seems to be like Gansey is the super pure part of the group that Ronan and Adam don't want to corrupt, and they both have their terrible past and their sad things that have happened to them, and Gansey's just like the perfect upstanding gentleman, and they respect that about him, but in a certain way they don't want to corrupt him. So it's like they're starting to more cling to each other now, as opposed to always going to Gansey for things, because there are some things that Gansey can't help them with. Blue and Ronan had an interaction, which was interesting. I don't think we've ever really seen Blue and Ronan alone together or talking to each other on any sort of deep level. But in the last couple chapters, with that kind of strange dream world, it was Blue and Ronan who were trapped at the end, which was very cool to see, because you don't see them interacting a lot on their own, but they still mean a lot to each other, which you can tell by just how they understood each other, and Ronan understood this was something Blue had to do, and he helped her out, and they went off together, and neither of them wanted to see each other get hurt, and just a bond beyond words. So I really loved the character interactions in this. I really loved how characters you wouldn't normally see talking to each other would happen. Aside from that, I really loved the romance that was starting to build up. I haven't talked too much about Blue and Gansey yet, but they are super great characters. They are really realistic, and they have their own problems, their own backstories, and I can just think of so many songs that fit everybody from this, and that is always a sign of a good character. But I love that their romance kept going in this, and it just more soul-shattering. They cannot be together, and he will die, and she will kill him, and all the sadness happening. And I actually really like the Gray Man with Mora. I didn't expect that. Last book, the whole time, I was just kind of like, oh, the Gray Man's kind of getting with Mora, that's a little weird. I mean, she still loves Blue's dad, but at the end of this book, they found Blue's dad, and I found myself rooting more for the Gray Man. Blue's dad was kind of like expressionless. He didn't really have any speaking roles, and I'm sure we'll hear more from him next book. But for now, I'm definitely rooting for the Gray Man. He seems to really care about Mora, and he actually had a really great part in this book with his sneakiness. I'm glad he's for our side this time, for the side of the good characters. I like how the dynamics of this group make it so that an ex-hitman can just be an unquestioned part of it. That is a sign of some good writing there. And that kind of ties into Maggie Stiefvater's unique brand of humor. It's really, really funny, these books, but in their own weird way. Like, I don't think I've ever read a book written quite like this, but it's so funny the way she just works in little jokes into the seriousness, and all the characters are really funny in an intelligent kind of way that makes you just really love them. And like Ronan singing that stupid song I spent like 20 minutes looking for on YouTube, but it just like bugged them all. And they're just all like moments that really stick out in your mind, or all the funny moments when they're just getting along, being friends. There are a lot of books that boast really good friend relationships, but it's not too often that they have like the friend group kind of humor going on. That's something really special that I'm really glad Maggie Stiefvater works in, is along with the sharing emotions and moments of closeness, there's also the just being stupid and making stupid jokes. And her humor makes a really great balance between the drama of the story and like the funniness of it all. Like when Adam and Ronan are diving down into the cave of death and the whole time Ronan's just singing that stupid song. That would probably be me. I'd probably be singing some sort of cartoon theme song. Also in this book we had our first instance of real character death. So in the past it's always been the bad guys who have been killed, like the teacher from the first book. But in this one, Persephone died, which was really sad for Blue, and she was crushed by this, and it's kind of like a warm-up for Gansey's death that's going to happen. It's kind of like a motivator for her. Now, she knows what death feels like, and she doesn't want it to happen to her best friend, soulmate. I don't even know what Gansey is to her. He's everything to everyone. And it's so important that he doesn't die. Us as readers didn't know Persephone too well. I mean, she was an important background character, and she had her great moments, but it's not as crushing to us as if one of the main Raven boys died or something. Along with Persephone we had the shouting guy. I liked him. He made the voice in my head really loud. That sounded like a schizophrenic thing. It's not. I mean like the reading voice in my head. I'm not making this any better. So we didn't know Persephone too well, so it didn't affect us that much. Now that I think about it, we don't really know any of the people who Blue lives with too well. I mean, I'd say that's one of the only flaws with this series, is the people Blue lives with. I don't know if it's just me, but I didn't really catch who all of them were the first time, and there's so many of them and it's so hard to keep them straight in your head. Persephone was definitely one of the ones that stuck out the most, which is why her death hurt, but if it was somebody else in that house, I don't really know if I would have really recognized who it was. So Mora was missing, which was really sad, and Mora's amazing, and of course we miss her because she's Blue's mom, we remember her. Orla is supposed to be Blue's cousin, I think I remember, but how is that possible? Because then Calla is her mom and she'd have to be Neve and Mora's sister. And then there's Jimmy? Maybe she's Orla's mom. Jimmy might be Orla's mom, but you never hear about Jimmy, ever. Nobody ever talks about her. And Calla is also like really motherly towards Blue, but I don't know if she's been characterized too much in the past, but I liked her character anyway. And apparently Blue has a cat. How come we've never heard about the cat before? There's the sewing phone cat room. Where is the cat in this equation? I would like to read about such a cat. They're good characters. It's just kind of hard to keep them all straight in your mind. Another thing I love about these books is how they can be so dreamy and unrealistic, but also really grounded in reality. It's like one moment Blue's worrying about her college and her future, and the next moment they're scrying along the ley line and finding dead people. The ending was super dreamy in that strange sort of way, like when they dove into the cave and they found all these animal bones, they turned into real animals that they had to ride through into the lake that shows dead people that you wish weren't dead. That was amazing, and the way they handled it was awesome too. And they've grown so much since the first book where they were confused by caves water. Now they kind of know how to handle these things and how to get on with it. And it just makes them even closer together, all these weird things they experience together. And I love the characters. I always seem to talk about characters in my review, but it's because characters are really important. Aside from that, really great villains in this one. Green Mantle and his wife were super amazing. Whenever you read the chapters about them, they seemed so real, like they seemed like real people. A lot of villains are just evil and serious and nothing else, but Green Mantle was funny and you could sort of feel his humanity within him, even if it was really twisted. The most interesting, I think, is Green Mantle's wife, who I don't know the name of. I spent a really long time looking for that on Google. I don't remember her name. It's probably going to come to me as soon as I stop recording here. But she was a great character. She's like kind of unbalanced and crazy, which is going to make for a really interesting villain, especially now that Green Mantle's completely out of town. At the very end, there was that plot twist where she met Neve and it looks like they're going to wake up the last sleeper, and that's really bad, and you can totally tell that she's going to be the main villain of the next book. But again, it ends with a really infuriating cliffhanger, just like in the other two books, where it's just like a sentence or something that throws you off and you're like, oh, well, that could mean anything, I'm going to pick up the next book, oh wait, it comes out in a year. So yeah, that's about it for my review of Blulilylilybl. It was a very, very good book. Very, very hard to say, Blulilylilybl. So yeah, that's the end. The HD end.